And as I walked closer, and I'm saying this because I have goosebumps up down my neck right now as I'm about to haven't even gotten to the creepy part. I see a black, hairy, long, fingernailed hand go around the door and slowly start opening it.
Welcome back once again to your favourite paranormal podcast, Hey, That's Weird. The show that gives you a stage for your weird stories and a host who gets as excited about your stories as the other listeners do. As usual, I want to start by thanking everyone who has listened, interacted, left a review, or told a friend about the show. We are slowly and steadily growing, and I'm stoked that you're all willing to be part of this little community. Shout outs to Poppy, Randy, Kyle, and Frankie for their kind comments, and also huge thanks to Bree and Lucy Linda Sue for leaving the nicest 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. You all make it worth it. This week my guest is my good friend and co-worker Ali. Ali first told me his story nearly 3 years ago, and I've been trying to get him on the show since the start. Our schedules somehow never lined up, but I finally managed to pin down a time last week with him to chat. Ali's story is a creepy one. It involves a phenomenon I can honestly say I don't know a lot about, and it was really interesting to hear his experience and explanation as to what he thought was happening in his childhood home in the Middle East. Anyway, before I butcher his story, I'll let him tell it in his own words. Without further ado, Ali, let's get weird.
My name is Hussein Ali. I'm a Vancouver-based photographer, now living in North Van. I grew up in the Middle East, in Kuwait to be exact. The story goes back to when I was 12 years old, just before I was a teenager, in the city called Bnei Al Gar, which is very close to downtown in Kuwait. And it had like a lot of apartments and houses. So we lived in a flat apartment, 3 bedrooms. I lived with my mom and dad and my 3 siblings, my brother and 2 sisters, all who are younger. This house is like in the 90s now, so back then the designs of the houses were very interesting. My parents had chosen to have black and white as the theme of the entire house, living room, dining room area. So the carpets on the floor were black and white striped. The walls were black and white striped, like tiger stripes, with some texture to it. So that was the theme of the entire house. It was black and white. In certain areas, you could see certain things. Other areas, it just feels dark. The couches were the same or everything. So there's white, enough white in the house that this light reflects even in darkness. The story, I believe, was in the summer because it was still daylight outside from when I remembered of what happened. I'm not aware of where my siblings were at this time. We all shared one room together. We had bunk beds. So it was like the kids' room, essentially. How the house was laid out was basically when you enter, there's like a room which leads into, straight up ahead, a hallway to the bedrooms, which is where one of the incidents happened. When you walk into that hallway, into the bedroom area, to your right, there's a bathroom, and next to the bathroom to its right is the kids' room. And then there's a bathroom on the opposite end of the hall, which had my parents' bedroom next to it. The bathrooms had doors above them, a square door, because it would lead into the attic space above the entire apartment. That's where we stored all our luggage and other memorable things from our childhood. So, yeah, it was a creepy place because it was a dark and dusty place like any other attic that you would see in movies, but this was like filled with air conditions and like wires because they're holding up the ceiling as well. You kind of remember Jurassic Park at the end when they're running away from the raptor and they climb up into the ceiling. That's the kind of vibe it is up there. Parallel to the entrance door was our grandparents' bedroom. And that's where the story starts. I still don't remember to this day what I was doing in our grandparents' room. I was playing in that room. It was like midday afternoon. My mom was in the kitchen cooking. Let's just say I think I woke up from a nap from that room and I left and I was walking to go to my mom. As I was walking in that hallway, before I reach even just when I walk past our parents' bathroom, I notice that the attic door is slightly open, which it never is. I'm walking slowly now, not fast, because I was like, something feels off about the situation. And as I walked closer, and I'm saying this because I have goosebumps up down my neck right now as I'm about to haven't even gotten to the creepy part. I see a black, hairy, long, fingernailed hand go around the door and slowly start opening it. And the interesting part is there was no sound. No sound. It was just slowly opening. And all I saw in that moment first was, I was like up against the wall, by the way, because I was frozen in that moment in between the two bathrooms opposite wall. In that moment, I just felt fear had frozen me in that spot. When I was a baby, my mom had shown me a blanket that I was wrapped in. It was that blanket that was covering something. And that same hand then goes to the blanket and pulls it down. And all I remember seeing is pure darkness and black. Black hair, very dark red eyes. And when it got to its mouth, which is a very evil grin, with tooth just come down straight and spiral, like go up, like a hook. And it's the perfect depiction of what jinns are in Islam. In Islam, we believe in the supernatural. We believe in ghosts. We believe in magic, because there is such a thing as like dark magic. Magic as a whole in Islam is bad because it is said that, magic can't be performed without pure evil. Back in the days, that's probably why that's how it was depicted as well. But jinn are basically beings that were created before humans and angels by Allah. And they're like made of smokeless fire. They live alongside us, essentially. We can't interact with them, but they can interact with our world. There could be one right next to me, and I wouldn't even know. It is said that there are good and bad jinn, and the bad jinn are obviously associated to the devil, which in Islam is called shaitan. It's a topic that is kind of taboo to talk about too much because it brings fear into someone who is a believer. The reasons why is that you don't talk about them too much because when you talk about them too much, they notice and then they try to familiarize with you and your surroundings. And that's the thing, you don't know if there's good or bad ones around because they are just like us. They're free will. They're accountable for their deeds like us people. They will be judged on Judgment Day. But at the same time, they are magical beings, so they can take shape of a human, an animal. They can interact with you in that way, but you would never know. But yeah, coming back to my story, To that moment, I was frozen. And the moment the blanket had gone down to the mouth and I saw those teeth and that face, I just ran because I could start seeing the body and the door opening more. And I was just like, I gotta get out of here. I bolted straight to my mom. I said to her, I saw this, and she was obviously on the phone with someone, and she was like, wait, what? To whoever she was talking on the phone, like got off the phone with them and came with me to take a look. She's had her fair share of experiences of that. When she got there, the door was fully open. Nothing was there, but the blanket was there. And she was very confused how that blanket was there because it was packed away in the far corner. So she was very confused how that was there. I remember just being scared for the rest of the time we stayed in that apartment. You try to explain to people who are not believers in that way, and logically, what could it have been? You could have just imagined it. But how did my imagination make a door open? How did the blanket that was packed away ending up right there? It was a moment of my life I'll never forget. But then a similar situation happened to my brother in the same house. And that one was even more creepy than mine, I feel, because he interacted with it without knowing. And if you ask him, he still says, like, it is one of the most fucked up feelings I've ever had.
Ali told me about his brother's experience in great detail. I asked him if he thought his brother, Mohammed, would be keen to tell it in his own words via a voice note that I could use in this episode. I was nervous to ask because, as Ali had told me, the whole subject is pretty taboo within the Islam religion. Thankfully, Mohammed agreed. He wrote down his experience and recorded it for me. Here's what he had to say.
This is my story. This happened when I was a kid, living in Kuwait with my family. We lived in an old house, and from the very beginning something felt off. I wasn't the only one who felt it. My mother did. My siblings did. We would hear things, see things that never made sense. There was a presence in the house, something we could never explain. One night, I woke up feeling thirsty. The house was completely dark as I stepped out of my bedroom and walked towards the kitchen. Everyone was asleep. The only sound was of my own footsteps and the silence that surrounded me. As I entered the living room, I suddenly felt that unmistakable feeling that someone else was there. In the corner of the living room, I saw a figure, standing still, the lights off, and all I could make out was a tall, black shape. As a child, my first thought was that it was my father. The thought gave me comfort, but I couldn't move. My body felt weak. My eyes started to close on their own, and no matter how hard I tried to stay awake, I couldn't. Every second felt like time itself had slowed down. I was falling asleep in the arms of something that was not human. The fear kept growing. My body wouldn't listen. And then I closed my eyes. I don't remember what happened after that. When I woke up, it was morning. It wasn't in the living room. It wasn't in my bed. I was lying on the floor of my grandparents' bedroom, right next to the bed, confused, terrified. I tried to understand how I got there. No one had heard me, no one had seen me, but I knew what I had seen. To this day, I can still picture that black figure. I can still hear the breathing. It wasn't something from this world. It was something nightmares are made of. Before I end the story, I want to explain something to those who may not be familiar with it. In our religion, we believe in beings called Jinn. They are said to be created from smokeless fire and live in a world parallel to ours. They are unseen, but they can interact with humans. Like us, some are good and some are evil. They can take different forms. They can influence fear, dreams, and consciousness.
After that, he woke up in our grandparents' bedroom where I left. a year ago from like where my thing started, and he ended up there in that room, just like perfectly still asleep with no blankets on him, nothing, just like he woke up and it was daytime now, and he doesn't understand how he got there. You know, like as a Muslim, like we believe in Allah, which again is a form of faith. You know, people say you can't see something, how do you believe in its faith? And people are like, how do you believe in like these other beings? And I'm like, you know, like how do we know they don't exist though then as well? Like there is definitely like, you know, we talk about shows that have parallel universes, Stranger Things with the Upside Down and all that jazz, and we believe like, you know, there's literally a parallel world in the same realm we live in. We just can't see it. They have their own families as well. Jinns actually have families. They have kids. It's the same kind of thing, but they are just beings of magical nature. And their depictions, if you ever look them up, are, to say the least, you get creepy vibes altogether. Even if they're good, they're still beings made out of smokeless fire. What is smokeless fire? It's insane.
After a childhood of growing up in a seemingly haunted house and not really having any experiences since, I was curious to see if Ali was still a believer in the paranormal to this day. The answer to me seemed obvious, but as usual, I thought I'd check. Here's what he had to say.
Definitely am 100%. You know, like there's no reason, like I still get goosebumps thinking about these things and these stories whenever I hear, is because I feel like, you know, there's truth to it, to whoever shares it. And for mine, I have my own, like, you know, memory of it. I don't understand how anybody could imagine that so realistically and have proof left behind and someone else seeing it. So yeah, you know, I'm definitely a believer.
As usual on Hey That's Weird, I give my storytellers a section to talk about something that's meaningful to them. Ali is one passionate dude. He thought about what he wanted to say, took a few days, and got back to me. Here's what he wanted to share.
What's happening in Gaza isn't complicated. It's heartbreaking. Entire families erased, children growing up under constant fear, people being denied safety, dignity, and basic human rights. Watching this go on for years, while the world shrugs and moves on, is exhausting and devastating. It's painful to feel powerless, to watch overwhelming forces used against civilians, while those responsible are shielded by political power and global silence. And for a long time, it felt like no one with a platform was willing to say anything. Only recently have I started seeing more people speak up, including athletes, artists, creators, and that matters. But awareness alone isn't enough. Real support means action. And if you're listening to this and you're privileged enough to have stability, safety, and income, then donating isn't charity, it's our responsibility. Even a small, consistent contribution can save lives. The organizations my family and I trust and recommend for Gaza Aid are UNICEF, Save the Children, the World Food Program, Islamic Relief, and Palestine Children's Relief Fund. These groups are actually on the ground providing food, medical care, and emergency relief right now. If you can, consider making it a habit. Collective consistency is powerful. Standing with Palestine isn't a trend. It's about humanity. The least we can do is show up for people who are being denied the chance to live freely and safely. I appreciate it. And thank you, Luc, for giving me the opportunity to speak about this as well.
That does it for episode 16. A massive thanks to Ali and his brother Mohammed for sharing their experiences. This episode took a little longer to put together due to work and life being a little crazy right now. From now on, new episodes of Hey That's Weird will come out every 3 weeks, rather than every 2. This extra time gives me a chance to make the best show possible for you guys. I don't want the show to suffer because I don't have time to work on it and have to rush out half-finished episodes. I hugely appreciate all your patience and your continued listening to the show. If you want to submit a story for an episode, reach out to me on Instagram at HeyThat'sWeirdPodcast or via email at HeyThat'sWeirdPodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening this far, and until next time, stay weird.